Welcome to the Transforming Trauma podcast. Transforming Trauma is presented by the NARM Training Institute. I'm your host, Sarah Bueno, and I'm delighted to have you join us today. The NARM Training Institute is offering a Level 2 NARM therapist training online so that you can attend from anywhere. The trauma field is evolving so quickly. Trauma-informed therapists who want to learn how to address the long-term impacts of adverse childhood experiences and complex post-traumatic stress disorder want to be trained in NARM. This online NARM therapist training is starting in July 2021. So if you're interested, we'd encourage you to register now to reserve your spot. For more information and to register, please visit www.narmtraining.com/level2online. We look forward to you joining our growing international NARM community and are inspired to work with you to bring NARM to your clients and communities in order to transform trauma. I'm pleased to introduce you to today's guest. Nick Larson is a songwriter, musician, and member of the band Próxima Parada. He uses his experiences growing up in dysfunction and then working on his trauma to create uplifting music that promotes healing. Born and raised in California, Nick currently lives in San Luis Obispo. So please enjoy my conversation with the amazing Nick Larson. Hello, Nick. Welcome to Transforming Trauma.
Hi, Sarah. Such a pleasure.
Yeah, this is take two. We just had some internet issues, but we are back and ready for action. So the first question we like to ask people who are on this podcast, as you know from being a listener yourself, is what do you want the listeners to get out of our conversation today?
Great. The very first thing that comes to my mind is I wanted to encourage others to give themselves permission to use outlets, whatever outlet that may be. It could be music, but it doesn't have to. It could be poetry, anything, to use their suffering and use their trauma as fuel for creating art, creating beauty, creating something that feels meaningful to them. It feels really good to, I think of the Thich Nhat Hanh image of transforming compost into flowers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some of us have a lot of compost at our disposal, and there's no need we don't have to just look at it all the time. We can use it.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. And today's interview is going to be a little bit different because you're a musician. You're not a therapist. You're not a trauma expert. Right. You are just a person living life in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Will you tell listeners why you're here, the connection that brought you here to us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Brad, who's one of the producers, reached out to me after hearing me speak at a webinar for ACE's support network. So this is another organization that's just trying to help build a trauma-informed society. Mm-hmm. He heard me speaking about using music to help in my healing journey with trauma. And it sounded like he really resonated with the music and invited me to join you guys. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. And in any way that I can be of service, I'm so happy.
That's awesome. And I'm really especially interested too, because I'm a musician as well. It's funny, I was thinking about this before today, and I'm more nervous for this episode than others because I've been so focused on being a therapist for the past 12 years that I've really gone away from music quite a bit. So I was thinking oh my God, I can't even speak anymore. What if I forget what harmony means? I don't know.
Oh my gosh. No worries at all. When you say you're a musician, do you like to play a certain instrument, sing?
I sing, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But let's talk more about you.
Okay.
Let's talk about you. This is
I'll
not
let you
my
off
interview.
the hook.
This is you, right? We'll see. I may throw some stuff in, but
please, you're invited.
I'm
interested. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because as a big fan of your guys' podcast, I love hearing about you. Every time that you're able to talk more about your experiences, I think it really adds a lot to the podcast. So
thank you for that permission.
Please.
I will take that when it feels right today. But I'd love for you to, start telling us your story, and wherever feels appropriate to start, to whatever level of detail feels relevant for you to share.
Yeah.
What led you to writing music and using it to heal your trauma?
Right.
Big question.
Yeah, big question. And there's so much to say there. I'll just start at senior year of high school. I was really into playing sports in high school, and I had zero experience with music.
Really?
And I was under the impression, especially in high school, that you kind of had to make a decision. Were you a musician? Were you a sports guy?
Yep.
What type of person are you? Where do you line up? And I, for some reason, didn't know that people could do both. I saw the band kids and I saw the athletes. And I chose athletics, and I was playing rugby my senior year of high school, and it was the spring, and I dislocated my shoulder the week of the first game of the season. And it took me out for the season. And the way that I hurt my shoulder, I wasn't able to do many forms of exercise. I was pretty badly injured, but I could keep my arms at my side. And I had a friend that was a jazz piano player. He was a high school kid. And I would go to his house and I started just kind of tinkering around on his piano, and it awoke something in me. I didn't understand it at the time. I just felt this burning desire to improve. I felt like I had to catch up. And for some reason, I was okay with sucking at it. I was, it's hard to be 18 years old and to be new at something, especially when you have peers that are really good by the time they're 18, right?
Yeah, right.
It was tough. So, as a freshman in college, I'm, using the common area dorm room piano to like play my tiny little 1-2 chord songs. And I'm really awful. And people would walk by and look, and it was a challenge. But for some reason, I just felt so driven to improve at that. And at first I didn't write songs that the second I started playing, I love the Beatles. So I was just like, I want to play Let It Be, So I'm just like, start by playing my little Beatles songs. And I also didn't sing growing up.
But you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And that's really been a huge part of the healing journey too, is allowing my voice to sound the way that it sounds without filtering it, without holding back. And that seems like a life skill too. It's like to be able to let yourself be seen by others and be heard by others. It's vulnerability. It is such a practice in vulnerability, as you know, playing music and being a singer. So much vulnerability required. As I started to finally write songs after playing music for a couple of years, I was starting to feel things. I think I've spent the vast majority of my life fairly numb, and I could turn to anger. That was a great emotion I could always turn to. That was allowed and maybe even encouraged around me, right? Anger was good as a man. But sadness, pain, sadness just didn't feel like there was any space for that. And, music definitely opened up my heart. I started to actually feel things. And next thing I know, I'm using music to make sense of my experience and trying to understand. I think the very first song that I ever wrote that I felt connected with was a song called Resilience. And it says, I'm a blade of grass that pushed its way through the pavement. I was for a couple years into playing music, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I resonate with what I wrote. And like, I didn't even understand where it came from. It's not like, I'm going to use my wonderful intellect to, fashion this song.
It was organic.
It was organic. There was just feelings coming out of me all of a sudden. And I had the sense to be receptive to that and actually take it seriously and write it down. That to me has felt like the biggest difference of why I've written so many songs, is because when something comes up, I listen. I don't think that I'm naturally gifted. I don't think that there's something special. I think I just listen. And that's given me a huge ability to pump out songs. I think last year I wrote like 30 songs during this 2020 pandemic time. I just keep writing. And I think that's just that being open and receptive.
And if I can interject right there, just to sprinkle a little NARM cheese on top of what you just said. The way that you're describing that, we talk in NARM about reconnecting with the heart, and trauma creates heartbreak and disconnection from our hearts. And so, I hear you talking about really reconnecting with your life force through music. That's so cool. I can totally tell why Brad was interested to have you on. Cool. You're just so heartful.
Thank you so much. It is unreal that music could do that for me. I would have never known. I didn't grow up dreaming of being a singer. I wanted to be a chef, actually. That was
really well.
Yeah.
That's also art, I think.
It's an art, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. I'm also just amazed at how all these just random events have led me to where I am today. Everything feels so arbitrary. Going to college, I wanted to go to culinary school, but I applied to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, this university, kind of on a whim, just because I tried in high school. I could see if I get into college. No one in my family went to college, so that was like, I'll try it. And I got in and like, okay, I'll go. And then in the dorm room, I happened to meet Kevin, who's my bandmate now. And he's playing Beatles songs in his dorm room. I'm like, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
And so next thing you know, we're playing music together, playing our little Beatles songs. And then we're writing songs together. And, now we have this group together. And it's all been so arbitrary.
Well, maybe not. I mean, I resonate with that idea as well. And, I kind of stumbled into social work, becoming a therapist, not even really like putting all the pieces together. But when I think in retrospect, I wonder if there was some part of me that had that knowing. And like you said, just listening to something inside of you saying like, yeah, this is the move.
Yeah, the gut. Isn't it a strange thing? Intuition is just a marvel.
Well, let's talk about your songs.
I noticed we also haven't mentioned our band name because it's just been my name.
Well, let's say that. OMG. Yes, please.
Because it's not under my name. Yeah, so our group is called Próxima Parada if you don't speak Spanish. And if you speak Spanish, you can say Próxima Parada. And it just means next stop. And it comes from San Luis Obispo, the city we live in. Every time a stop is announced on the bus, it always says, now approaching Próxima Parada, and then the name of the street. And so as students, we thought it was really funny to get like free advertising of our band.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's
you hear
brilliant.
it like 50 times a day,
Oh my gosh. And we want to pause for a moment to give listeners a moment to check out one of your songs. The one I want to talk about right now is the one you just emailed me, which is called
Paying for It.
Paying for It.
A bottle can make him disappear while he thinks he's home. Now I'm paying for it. I'm so thankful for it. All I ever wanted to be was grateful, strong, and perfect. All I ever wanted for to know that I have to worry about me. Now I'm paying for it. But I'm so thankful for it all. I'm so grateful now to never have to be perfect. And the light in front of me awaiting is serenity.
Talk about this song. Talk about Paying for It.
Paying for
I'm looking
it.
at the lyrics right now.
Yeah, Paying for It is another one of those songs that, after it's done being written, I'm like, wait, that came from me? Oh my goodness. I don't have any memory of writing it. Even though I'm completely sober and I know it was daytime, but it just like wrote itself, which is strange. You'd think that the most personal song that I've ever written, I would really remember that. But I feel like the most personal stuff is all the way deep in the gut. And this song just came out. I think the thing that I love most about this song is that when I wrote it, I felt like this is my story. This isn't about anyone else. And yet all I hear from people is them saying, this is my story. You told my story. And I think that's so incredible that the more personal we're willing to get, the more universal we're actually able to get.
Yeah. Well, let me read some of the lyrics and you can tell us more what it's about.
Yeah.
So I was just a little kid. There was a hornet's nest in my fridge. The man would come home. 1 hornet, 2 hornets, blacked out. The man was gone.
Yeah.
But I know when he was just a boy, every good road was destroyed. Empty table Thanksgiving. Dad gone, mom gone, no heroes. City jungle living.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beginning of the song right there. And that first image about a hornet's nest is something that my dad will immediately know what I'm talking about. My dad, his beverage of choice was 40-ounce Mickey's. And the 40-ounce Mickey's bottle has a hornet on the bottle cap. And I remember being a kid seeing those 40-ounce Mickey's in the fridge, and like it was scary. I knew what it meant. It wasn't just a cold beverage. Even as a little kid, I understood that. those were dangerous, at least in my house.
Right.
And so, yeah, my dad from a young age, you guys on your podcast talk a lot about intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And that's certainly the case in my story. My dad, starting at age 8, started to black out because of the trauma he was experiencing. So he was using substances to black out from a really, really young age as a coping skill to get through his life. And that stayed with him for a really, really, really long time. And as a kid, there was this strange knowing of, I know that I'm experiencing some challenges because of what my dad's going through, but I could see that it's much older than me and my story. It's his story. And then of course it's older than him too.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to pass blame. I can't say like my dad did this or that, because he's really a continuation of his experience, right? And his childhood, and it goes back and back, right? So the more clear I got with that in therapy, I felt like, oh, it's not anyone's fault anymore. This is just what happened. I no longer felt, I don't know, like there was a me against anyone in my family. It felt like, oh, we're all this continuation. And the crazy thing is, the more and more I sit with it, I see that it's been a huge blessing in my life to experience what I've experienced, because when I sit with it, as I use it, my life is actually so much more rich than I think if I had just had this perfectly easy life coasting along. And so I feel a lot of gratitude. And the song is largely about saying, yes, I am paying for what I've experienced. I'm definitely paying for it. I know that I'm struggling in many ways, but I'm also so grateful to have experienced that suffering because of the ways that I've grown.
Right. Yeah. I want to read the chorus for folks.
Yeah.
Now I'm paying for it, but I'm so thankful for it. All I ever wanted to be was grateful, strong, and perfect. All I ever wanted for was no one to have to worry about me.
Yeah.
Now I'm paying for it, but I'm so thankful for it. Oh, I'm so grateful now to never have to be perfect. And the dandelion in front of me, awaiting is serenity.
Yeah. So, we all respond to dysfunction in different ways, right? Growing up in dysfunction, I thought if I was the perfect one, no one had to worry about me, then I wouldn't be causing any more ripples, right? I don't want to I see that my parents are suffering. I don't want to cause trouble for them. I want to be the perfect one. And in doing that, what am I doing? I'm shutting off my feelings, right? The perfect person doesn't get sad or mad right? The perfect one doesn't have feelings. The perfect one's always happy, always of support. I might ignore my own experience. I ignore my needs. And that's what I wanted as a kid, right? And all the way into my 20s. But through therapy, I could see how I grabbed onto that and how it served me for a long time. I know it was very helpful. And so, yeah, the song, I'm not mad about having taken on that role of trying to be the perfect one or something, because now I can see I can let go of that. I don't ever have to be perfect. And I want to see something as beautiful as serenity in something as simple as a dandelion flower. And that was an image that I got from Thich Nhat Hanh, who's just been he's been a huge influence for me, this Vietnamese Buddhist monk. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but yeah, just a big fan. And that image of a dandelion is like something that's so easy to look past.
Because it's a weed, technically.
It's a weed. Yeah. And they're all over where we live here in California. So.
That's so beautiful. And there's so much that you were saying that is exactly what we talk about in NARM, about having to shut down our emotions. We disconnect from ourselves in order to survive. And I heard you say like that was a strategy to protect yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. And I was curious. I'm glad that you said that you went to therapy, because I was like, if music just did all of this for you, like you are something special, buddy, because music did not do that for me, though healing as it was.
No, I started going to therapy when I was 25. I'm now 31. So I've been consistent for 6 years. And just like learning music, when I started with therapy, I was just like, I am determined to work really, really hard in therapy, because it felt like what a gift that's been handed to me, this opportunity to work with someone that is actually invested in my growth and is able to hold space for me. My therapist, Elise, I just have so much love for her.
Oh,
yeah, it's just been incredible to have someone that is actually open and not there to like interject her own story onto me, but is able to inquire alongside me, right? Like you guys talk about in NARM, right? That inquiry is huge.
Mm-hmm. And you said, it's a gift that's been given to me, but I'm going to sneak in a little NARM agency language here that you gave that gift to yourself because you're paying for it. You're the one who shows up and you're the one who does the work, right? Yes, of course. Like, as a therapist, we always love to hear when we are impactful for folks and we love to hold that space, but the client is the one who does the work.
Well, thank you for reframing that. It is true. I think the biggest thing is getting over the stigma of therapy.
Let's talk about that because I don't talk to quote unquote normies very often. I spend all of my time in therapy circles and I forget. I'm a straight up normie.
Yeah. So as a normie, this was my story. I don't know if you never experienced this, but my story was that people who go to therapy are weak. People who go to therapy don't have the strength to figure every single thing out for themselves with no help. Because for me, it meant I have to do everything on my own with no help.
And where did that message come from?
Being perfect. I have to be perfect, right? I can't have any problems. So like, I'll just bottle it. I'll suppress, right? I'll just be tough. I don't even know what that meant anymore now, but to me, being tough is actually being vulnerable. That is way harder. To go to therapy is way, way harder.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so interesting because I wanted to go to therapy and I knew my mom wouldn't consent for it. So I had to like run around and try to figure out how to get it without them knowing about it. It's so...
I had to date a therapist in order to understand that it was valuable.
Well, whoever she is or he, whatever, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
She definitely helped just see the stigma that I held so strongly. Yeah. And it was helpful because like building intimacy with someone who's becoming a therapist, it's like, oh, I can see where you're coming from. And she helped me so much with like, no, it's not about fixing people. They're not, that's what I thought is like, oh, you think you can just help me? Like, no, I'm doing it all myself. And she's like, it's pretty much what it is. Like, you are doing it yourself, but you also have someone here to support and ask the right questions and reflect and be a human being with you.
Wow. And I'm curious, how did your songwriting change as you went through therapy?
That's literally any song that I really love and am connected to is from therapy. Absolutely. Yeah. So starting with our album Big 7 in 2017, like that's when I feel like there's a depth to the songs that I write. And that's, it's like pre-therapy and post-therapy. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. 100%.
Are there any ones in particular that stand out?
Time in a Circle is one that people really resonate with from that 2017 album. And that was the first really vulnerable song that I ever wrote. So Paying For It is the song we spoke about just before. And that is from a 2019 album. But so from the 2017 album, Time in a Circle, I didn't want to release because it felt just too vulnerable. I can't let people see me like that. I'm not perfect. It just felt so bad to paint myself in a true light and the tenderness that I was feeling at the time. You know?
I don't have those lyrics. Can you recite them? Or I know sometimes like I can't recite lyrics. I can only sing them.
I have a strange knack for lyrics, but the verse is really simple. It starts out saying, I don't know what I should see, but I'm looking.
Oh.
So I had no idea what I was doing in this journey, right? But my willingness to show up, that's what I can take responsibility for, is I'm going to keep showing up and looking, right? And so then it says, I decided to open my door up, but I hate the way my house looks now.
Wow, these are serious. I feel that.
I don't really know what I should see, but I don't really know what I should see, but I'm looking. Oh, I'm looking. I decided to open my door. I decided to open my door, but I hate the way my house looks now. I'm gonna find my simple way. Over and over again, I'm gonna keep it all.
Yeah, so I didn't know that I struggled with self-love until therapy. I thought, like, honestly, the word self-love was a huge turnoff to me. It was like, self-love, that sounds like weak baby stuff. Like, what is self-love? I don't even get it. And then therapy comes along and I'm just like, oh, I know why I have an aversion to it, is because I don't experience it.
I can relate to that too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So for the first time in my life in that song, Time in a Circle, I'm open. I'm like, I'm letting people actually see me, not for the person that I want you to see me as, but for the person that I am. And it is scary. It's scary.
Wow. And I super relate to that in terms of lyrics, putting something out there that's like so personal. That probably is partially why I've always been in cover bands, because I can sing somebody else's song and put all of my trauma, all of my story into it.
You can identify with it. Yeah,
but I'm hiding, right? It's authentic, but at the same time, it's not me, right? But I've been in a couple bands where I've written songs, and the first time I ever performed my own lyrics, I wanted to die. I wanted to throw up.
I get it.
And I love being on stage. I love singing. I love performing, but that was so much. I imagine you probably get used to it, right? I like ended that band and then like never performed my own stuff again.
Yeah, I get it. It is so intimidating. I mean, it literally feels like, no joke, I'm taking my soul, putting it out into the room and taking my hands away and saying, okay, do with this what you will. Right. You can accept it or reject it. And that is so hard to do.
Yes, because it is you, right? Like that's how I felt. I was like, this is literally the most intimate part of myself. And if you don't like this, I will be destroyed.
Yes. You're saying that I am not valuable if you hate this music.
Right. And that my soul is trash.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. That's exactly what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. But you keep doing it, you brave human.
Whew. Thank you. It's crazy that it's now what I make a living, being a vulnerable human with my best friends. It's wild. Yeah, I went to school to be a physical therapist. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I graduated doing. And then the more and more connected I got to music, I just realized that it wasn't the way that I wanted to be of support. I knew that I wanted to be of support somehow, but it started to get more and more clear that it was music.
That's so fun. Yeah. I'm like the opposite. First, I thought I was going to be a Broadway star.
Cool.
Well, no, first it was a pop singer. I was like, Madonna, Michael Jackson, that is my jam. Yeah. I'm a little bit older than you. And then in college, I was like, no, I'm going to be a Broadway star. And then I became a therapist and was like, no, this is my jam. And I can use my performance skills to be on a podcast or to do speaking gigs and stuff like that. Wow. So we were like this, two ships passing.
Wow.
Cool. Well, I'm curious, since you were on this panel for the ACEs conference, what are people saying about your music and how it's speaking to their trauma? Like, tell me about the feedback that you're getting.
Wow. Yeah, it is so interesting. I should just pull up.
Yeah,
Bear with me for 1 second. This was just this morning is why I'm pulling it up.
Oh, so cool.
This guy in Brooklyn messaged me today and said, you have truly been a godsend for me this last year. I started getting occasional panic attacks about a year ago when COVID first hit. And to this day, listening to Time in a Circle is the only thing that helps me to calm down. It brings tears to my eyes every time I hear it. All of your music has been such an emotional release for me. So thank you. To hear that kind of stuff. Because remember, I didn't want to even release that song. I was too afraid of being seen. And so it is just a reminder that, like, I'm not doing this as my own experience. Like, all right, I got to be vulnerable and share these songs. The fact that that guy could resonate with that song so much that it could support him through this hard year, I would have never expected that. I could have never hoped for something so beautiful.
Right? There's something really reciprocal about that too. The fact that you put this beautiful thing out there, somebody else receives it, and then they also give back to you just by saying that, right? Like, I never understood until having my own podcast, the whole like fan situation when it's not objectified, right? Because I think sometimes, especially musicians, you get put up on this pedestal, like you're this like fancy guitar player and singer and blah, blah, and people can project all these things onto you. But it sounds like that person really connected with your soul that you put into that song. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and there was a man that I somehow came across, or someone came across this YouTube video of a man playing that song, Time in a Circle, a song that I wrote. And he was...
You're being covered?
No, it was so weird because this man lives in Germany. And then before that, he lived in France, but he's actually from Africa and he's probably in his 60s or something. So this older man with a completely different background than me. I'm born and raised in California. And he's covering the song. I'm so confused. Like, wow. First of all, how did you find this? And why did you choose to? I tracked him down on Facebook and sent him a message. And this man, as you know, said, this is my story. You told my story. And this song has helped me in my marriage. This song is my life. And it's just so crazy. Like, how is that possible? It just blows my mind. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that really, in a year like 2020, when we're not able to tour, things are getting really tricky financially. Stories like that really help give us the strength to keep pushing. Because like, I know that me going first and being introspective and using my story is really helpful for other people to make sense of their experience.
Well, I was going to ask you how you've been affected by COVID. And obviously, music venues are shut down. There aren't... I mean, in Chicago, we definitely haven't opened any venues yet. Like, I mean, this is traumatic. To not be able to do your job, to not be able to make the money that you were used to making before.
It was interesting when things hit in March of 2020. We were on tour. We were in New York City. We were in DC. We were heading down the East Coast. And the last show that we played was Charleston, South Carolina. And that was on the 12th of March. And so we were expecting the very next day to go to another city. And we're like, oh, no, it's not happening. Like,
JK, going home.
I'm like, okay, well, that city, I guess, is just being a little too, they're overreacting. So, okay, well, what about Atlanta? Like, okay, let's see. Nope, that's canceled. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, our tour's over. And then we realized the severity of the situation. We didn't get it at first, I think. I mean, I don't think anyone got it in early March. They didn't quite see it. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, we're in South Carolina. We got to get home. And so, then I spent all that time from then on here in San Luis Obispo. No touring.
Well, how are you? I know you said you wrote 30 songs this year. How else are you spending your time taking care of yourself?
I tried to use it as an opportunity, right? I can't do this, I can't do that. And I could focus on the ingredients that I don't have, or I could focus on the ingredients that I do have, right? And so at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought about, okay, I really want to make pesto pizza, for example. And
saved by pesto. That's cute.
I need basil, I need walnuts or whatever, pine nuts. I need all these things. And like, I look and what do I have? Like, I got tomatoes, like, dang, what am I going to do? Right. And so I just tried to use the ingredients that I had to try to still live a good life. Of course, I had plenty of struggles. There's a lot of solitude, but even in that struggle, it's like, okay, this is still an opportunity. And so I guess the part of the way that I made sense of it was by writing songs. I mean, these are like my journal entries.
When do we get to hear all of those?
Some of the songs that are already out, 24 Brand New Hours, Begin Again, or these are songs that kind of come from that time. They're out. You can listen to it on Spotify and wherever, Apple Music, wherever people listen to music. It's so cool to we still were able to create beautiful music, and we recorded the album. The difference though is that we recorded it all ourselves this time because we, for one, budget is much more difficult, and we also have pretty much unlimited time. So we recorded it all ourselves. We mixed it all ourselves. It took forever because we were learning so many skills, and I'm so glad we did it, because no one will ever put as much time and effort into our music as we will. So we got to experience that firsthand. And the album is called Second Brother, and it'll be out in August, and just releasing singles along the way, and it's been really fun.
24 brand new reasons. not the same. We don't have to play cards with Poseidon. We can leave the ocean behind us. We've been holding our breath long enough.
That's so lovely. There's something about you that's so resilient. I mean, and I'm always tuning in for spiritual bypassing because that's a trauma that I dealt with growing up. And I don't sense that with you. I sense that truly you really are able to shift and not look on the bright side necessarily, but like you said, work with the ingredients that you have in front of you. And that's really very special. Not everybody has that gift.
Thank you so much. I think it helped me growing up a lot to always tell myself that things could be worse. But now my work is to say things also could have been better. So I'm trying to give myself permission to feel the things that I need to feel. So resilience is almost like, that's my baseline. It's like, okay, I'm able to be resilient. No problem. I'll truck through anything. But I also like keeping up with therapy this year, keeping up my meditation practice. I need to continuously confront the challenges as well, because it's easy for me to just be positive.
Yeah. It's interesting. Anger for me was the shy emotion. So I think we're also flip-flopped there because you said sadness was hard for you, but anger was hard for me. Only my dad was allowed to be angry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everyone's allowed to be angry where I come from. So.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Even at a very, very young age, from the very beginning, I remember we could always punch holes in the wall. That was okay. Yeah. Now it's like being aware of when those feelings come up, but actually seeing what's the unmet need here, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that always the case? There's some unmet need, and that's why anger comes up for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Plenty of opportunities to work with it this past year.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, shifting a little bit, but something that I was thinking of as you were talking about your songs, you know, part of why I think music is so healing, not only, you know, the experience of writing the lyrics and getting them outside of yourself, but also literally like the physical sensation of playing music and singing, especially the vibration.
Yeah.
And like receiving that energy and creating that energy, I think is also part of the healing nature of music.
Interesting. Yeah. Like as an actual physical practice.
Yeah.
And you mean also from a listener's perspective?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sound healing, right?
Yeah,
Vibrational healing.
Yeah.
So why not?
Why not? A good pair of headphones. Oh man, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. I mean, I had a really intense therapy session earlier today where we're like really touching some deep stuff. And one of the things that I've had to do in COVID, because my husband is working at home too. So if I need to sing at the top of my lungs, I have to go in my car. And so before this, actually, I was driving around like singing at the top of my lungs and just like reminding myself, like moving the breath, moving the energy. And there's something about, for me, I hold my breath. I don't know why. That's a thing that I started doing. And the only time that I really breathe is when I'm singing now.
Yes. I laugh because in one of the singles that we released recently, 24 Brand New Hours, it says, the last line will pertain, but it says, we don't have to play cards with Poseidon. We can leave the ocean behind us. We've been holding our breath for long enough. I could totally relate and resonate with what you're saying. Absolutely. And sitting down at the piano for me and really just letting myself open up and sing and play. Sometimes I'll play really hard too. That can be just such a wonderful release.
Because little known fact, people, the piano is a percussion instrument.
Yeah, exactly. With fists, whatever.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
It's been a huge blessing to have a piano in my room at home.
Is it a real piano?
Real piano. I have to use a keyboard for touring, but at home, it's all about the real piano. Yeah.
That's so lovely. Well, I feel like this is a beautiful place to wrap up. And I want you to share all of your social media and where people can find you, all of that jazz.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we're called Próxima Parada. We'll be on tour a lot coming up this year. And
wait, are you going back to tour?
yes, we will.
When?
Yeah.
When are you coming to Chicago?
In June. That'll be really soon. Yeah, we'll be.
We got to hang out.
Yeah, we'll definitely hang out in person. I would love that.
Yeah.
We played, the last place we played in Chicago was called Cubby Bear, right across from Wrigley Field.
Right down the street from me.
Oh, there you go. And we loved it. So we'd love to go back there as soon as it makes sense. So yeah, Chicago is a favorite city of ours for sure.
Well, that's exciting that you'll be able to tour soon.
Yeah. And, in the meantime, people can find us on Spotify or Apple Music. We're always doing weird, wacky things on Instagram. I've only been talking about myself today, but I'm in a band of 4 people and we have a lot of fun together. It's a joyous group. And also on this new album, there's these 2 absolutely incredible guest musicians that sing with us, Anka Neal and Tamina Johnson. They're just incredible guest vocalists, and they're on every single song. And one of the songs they're actually singing lead vocals on, and that's incredible to hear their perspective on a song. And it's actually a song it arose from the BLM movement last year. And it's so cool to hear their perspective. And then there's also a fantastic vocalist that sings lead on another song, and her name's Million Miles. And so I'm so excited for this new album because people will be able to hear not just my perspective, but 2 other songs have these female perspectives that are just gorgeous. They're so good. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. And is there anything else that I didn't ask that you really think you want to share with listeners before we peace out?
Thank you for asking that. No, I'm just so honored. I hope, this is just my way of making sense of trauma. But I just hope that people will do whatever they're called to. Like if cooking makes them feel like they're able to process what they've gone through, or creating something beautiful, whatever it looks like.
It doesn't even have to be beautiful.
Yeah,
Create whatever the hell you want.
Right. It doesn't have to be beautiful at all, but that will be beautiful if they just create what feels very authentic to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel complete. I feel really honored that we got to speak about this journey.
Yeah, it's been so lovely to meet you. And listeners, make sure you check out Próxima Parada anywhere you listen to music.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Really a pleasure, Sarah. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. To find more about our guest, check the show notes or visit us at www.narmtraining.com/transformingtrauma. You can connect with us in many ways. On Instagram, find us under @the NARM Training Institute, on Twitter @NARM Training, and Facebook @NARM Training as well. The NARM Training Institute also offers the Inner Circle, an online self-paced learning program intended for anyone who is interested in joining an international online community focused on healing complex trauma. You can find more information about these trauma-informed learning programs in addition to other resources on the website, www.narmtraining.com. Thanks to Andrea Klunder and the Creative Imposter Studios for producing and editing, to Tori Essex for our album art, and to Brad Kammer for the creation of this podcast. We look forward to building community and connection with you and changing the world by transforming trauma.